Hello everyone, my name is Ms. Rininger, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a junk sculpture in the style of artist Dale Chihuly. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, here are the materials that we're going to need. So we are going to need some water bottles, preferably generic water bottles because they're a thinner plastic, which makes it easier to cut. You're also going to want to wash these first. So what I used was antibacterial dish soap. So kids, while you're at it, you might as well do the dishes for your parents while you're at home anyway. Okay, so you're going to want at least 10 of those. Also, you're going to want some permanent colored markers, an assortment of colors, and I've found that Sharpie brand works best. Some string of some sort, so that could be fishing line, so if you want it to be clear. It could be string, it could be yarn, just use what you have, be resourceful. And a pair of scissors, so probably a bigger pair of scissors would work best. Okay, now here's what we're going to do first. You're going to want to get the dents out of these. So you can just kind of put your finger in there and pop out the dents. And then choose your first color, and we're just going to color it in. Now you don't need to color the actual nozzle, and you don't need to color the bottom of the bottle because we're going to eventually cut that off. So just have fun with it, color it, and decorate it how you like. You're going to want to color as much as possible so that it looks like stained glass. If you leave most of it blank, it's just going to continue to look like a bottle. So color as much as you can. Now, I've already colored a few, so I will go ahead and grab those. So for this one, I just colored it in layers. So when you're coloring, you really want to get in those grooves and really fill it in. And you can see how I did not color the nozzle, I did not color the bottom. For this one, I just kind of scribbled over the whole thing. It gives it kind of a visual texture that I like. And for this one, I just colored with patches of color all throughout. Okay, now, after we're done coloring them, remember you want at least 10, but the more the better because it's going to make your sculpture look a lot bigger and a lot more full. So here's how you cut it up. The first step is you want to take the bottom of the bottle and just kind of pinch a corner like this. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well. And then you take your scissors and make a little cut. So just a little incision there, and then that way you can put the bottom of your scissors inside of that hole and cut around the whole bottom of the bottle. So we want to cut it all the way off. Okay, we're going to keep that because we'll use that for another project later on. Okay, now we're going to angle the scissors and we're going to spiral our way up to the top nozzle. So I want to kind of follow the cut edge along, always keeping about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch between the cut edge and my scissors. You can see I'm turning it as I go. So by the time I'm done, it's going to look like a spiral or a slinky. I'm not sure if you kids know what slinkies are anymore. Now I don't want to cut that top nozzle off. I'm just going to go up to it. Okay, and then there we go. That's our first bottle. Now I want to give you some tips on some issues you might run into. So I'm going to cut this bottle. So I'm going to do the pinch, make that corner, make a little cut, and put the bottom of my scissors in that hole and cut all the way around to get that bottom off. Now here's one problem students often run into. They'll cut it too thick. So I'm going to cut it thick to show you what happens. See, this is really thick between the scissors and the cut edge. That's probably about 2 inches, an inch and a half, something like that. Okay, so now when I hold it up, it doesn't really come to a spiral. You can see more of that water bottle form. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this into a double spiral. And to do that, I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm just going to cut in the middle like this, all the way up. Okay, now if I pull it apart, I have a bottle that is now a double spiral. Okay, so that's kind of a happy accident. All right, here's another form we can make too. So I'm going to cut the bottom of the bottle off, just like I did before. And instead of cutting around, I'm going to cut straight up. I'm going to cut all the way to the nozzle. Now I'm going to leave about an inch between cuts. Okay, now with this one, after I've cut all those strips, I just pull it backwards. And it will kind of create almost a flower form or other organic forms. So remember, organic forms are forms that you would typically see in nature. So I like to put these, the ones that kind of look like flowers, I like to put these at the top of my sculpture, okay? Now I've already colored and cut a lot of these bottles. So the next step is I want to show you how to tie these. So here's where the string comes into play. So I'm going to cut about 5 to 6 inches of string. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this through the top nozzle and then through the cut edge. So you can see that top of the cut where it's going through. Now what I want to do is I want to tie it 3 times, just kind of like when you're starting to tie your shoe. I want to tie that 3 times to make sure it's nice and secure. And just like that. Now eventually I'm going to tie this to a great big loop of string. That's going to make the whole sculpture come together. So I'm going to set that aside. For this one, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll go through the nozzle and then through one of these cuts between the petals. One, 2, and 3. Okay, and I'll set that aside. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. So about 5 or 6 inches of string. So I went through the nozzle and then through that upper part of the cut. And then tie it 3 times again. Okay. I'm going to set that aside. Now I'm going to take about a foot of string. Now I didn't measure this. I just made a good guess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it 3 times. This is going to be the top loop. And I'm going to tie all of my water bottles to this loop. That's going to make the sculpture come together, but it will also make it so I can hang it, you know, from a hook when my sculpture is done. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my string's kind of coming apart. And there we go. Okay, now here's how we tie it all together. So I'm going to take these 2 ends of string and tie it to the loop. Tie it 3 times again, make sure it's secure. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now you can see how that's going to hang. Now, if you don't like these little edges hanging off, you can trim those down. That's totally fine. I think I'm going to wait till the end to do that. I'll put this one on the end because that's going to go at the top. And I'm going to tie these on. So this is going to take a while. And then I have a bunch of bottles that I have done in advance. like I said, you're gonna want at least 10, but if you do more, it's gonna look a lot better. I want to kind of keep those together, so I'm kind of pushing them together as I go. So that's 4. Okay, so that's what 5 looks like. Starting to get there. What's probably going to take you the longest on this whole project is the coloring. That took me a really long time, especially by myself. So this would be a good time, you know, if you have siblings that you want to create this with, or if you want to do this as a family project, this is the perfect opportunity. One more of the spirals. And then I'll show you how to tie the flowers to the top. Okay, so that's all my spirals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the flowers to the very top to add some visual interest up there. I usually like to put, you know, 2 or 3 at the top when I make these with my classes. All right. Now, my final step would be just to trim those edges. I'm not going to do that right now, but here is the final product. Isn't that beautiful? And you can do that with recycled materials.